Do you want to make a difference in the world?
And see the lives of the people of India and all internationals transformed with the gospel?
As India goes, all Asia will go with it.
Living the Dream podcast provides tools for you to pray, give, and go
as you become an active participant in the Great Commission
and help your church's demographic represent the demographic of your community.
Get ready to find your strategy for reaching your community and changing the world here at Living the Dream podcast with your host, Pastor Kevin.
Good morning. I'm Pastor Kevin, founder and executive director of Global Hope India, and your host for Living the Dream podcast. This is where the church gathers to mobilize in order to effectively reach the community and change the world, including all the foreign-born internationals moving into our communities. I interview today's top church leaders from around the world so we can learn all we can about reaching internationals with the gospel and partnering with them in the Great Commission. It's time the church has this conversation. I'm so blessed today. We've set up a mobile broadcast studio at the Revive Group in Navi Mumbai in India. And I am here with Mr. Vibhu Kapoor and my dear friend, one of our partners in India, Pastor M is how we're going to refer to him. And I have been privileged to meet Mr. Kapoor several times as we have been working with our partner here in a clean water project out on a property known as Kalapur. Pastor M, I want you to just share with us an introduction to Mr. Kapoor and your relationship. How did you get to know him?
I really want to thank God for this wonderful relationship that Mr. Vibhu Kapoor and we carry. I would say that it is a divine providence, God's divine appointment and connection that only could happen as God has planned it. I remember meeting him 2009. I always refer it this way. If it was a human effort, if I have to try to reach a person of his stature, it wouldn't be possible. And the watchman of the building, his company, may not even allow me to come inside the premises. But it was God's providence that the Lord connected us. Via he heard about us, and one fine day on 10th November 2009, I received a call from him requesting that we could meet together. And we actually met on a street. And that's where it all began. Me coming from slum, and today sitting with Mr. Vibhu Kapoor, who is the MD of a billionaire company. It's the grace of God. Here is Mr. Vibhu Kapoor. And I'm going to experience wonderful conversation with him about and it's a true essence of godly partnership.
So, Mr. Kapoor, I just want to welcome you to the Living the Dream podcast, both you and Pastor M. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you very much. I'm blessed that we are meeting today. And, your water project and Pastor's introduction is God's will. And He sends people looking for people and to partner and to grow in His grace and with His blessings. I thank you very much for inviting me for this podcast.
Well, I just honor you. I know you're a very busy man. You and your company stay extremely busy. And that's one of the reasons that I was attracted to interview you today for the podcast. And I really appreciate you making time in your busy schedule for this brief interview. And I know our listeners are going to be incredibly blessed as they hear this story. So, sir, a man of your means, you have a lot of opportunity to experience the luxuries of life. Why would you take time to really care for the less fortunate, for the orphans? You've been such a blessing to Pastor M and to his team. And part of what's driven even this partnership on the land with the water projects has been your compassion for the children and for the women. How did that happen? And why are you being so generous as in what the Lord has put into your hands?
When we met several years back, we were just looking for a place where we could put some energy and be with God's word. And that's what He had asked, to seek for somebody, look for somebody so that we can help each other. Going forward, we had an opportunity to find home for the children, whom Pastor Im had, with great courage and absolute humbleness, has mentioned that he would not be able to meet me, but it was God's will that we definitely would meet. And that took us a long way to find place for the orphan children that he looks after. And some of them, children were with AIDS, and people didn't want to rent out the space. We went looking, and everybody rejected. We were very disheartened, and we went looking for places far away so that one day they could find a permanent home. And that drove us to Khalapur, and that dream of having a city of hope where everybody is welcome and to live their life with God's grace and will. That was the reason why we went there. When we went there, we observed that the people over there are even deprived of the basic necessities of life, water, of health. So close to a city like Bombay and Pune, and still deprived, and no access, and no means, and no thought. And that's what took us to Khalapur. And now as we build the city of hope over there, we start with the first thing is to bring out the women and the children in the endeavor to build a city which is going to be for everyone. That's where the water project came in. And of course, you all have been absolutely helpful in conducting the health camps, looking after the health of the children. Pastor has been there. He's entrenched, looking at the mental health of the children and the women and the people around, just transforming in God's will.
Well, sir, I honor you for your generosity and just the heart that God has given you. And every one of us has the capacity to become very self-absorbed and self-centered. But we all have an opportunity, if we're willing, to become open-handed. And you have demonstrated that. And even if you do not give one more rupee to any further charitable cause, you have already begun to build a legacy for you and your family. And I just honor you for that. Pastor M, would you just share with us the partnership there on the land? I want to get into the conversation about Mr. Kapoor's description of partnership that he was sharing with me and the team yesterday, and the need for patience in that partnership. Every week on Living the Dream podcast, we're talking about building relationships, people with a different face than ours. Often we think that that's going to happen overnight and we're going to see results within a few hours. But the reality is, if we're going to be committed to becoming a friend of internationals, it's going to require a lot of patience. And while we're not working in relationships in the U.S. about clean water projects, there's some fundamental principles that we can take away and just realize if we're really going to reach the foreign-born internationals living in our community, can't just be a one-time effort and then we've arrived. It's going to need to be just a steady walk that we continue to walk out. We've been working on this project for several years. Will you just bring our listeners up to date on how the project has begun and really where we got to this place of waiting? And then I want Mr. Kapoor to just share with us the takeaways of needing to be patient in this.
By the grace of the Lord, back in 2002, the Rays of Hope began with its activities in smaller ways. And then the Lord led us to begin a children home, that is House of Hope, in 2006. I remember 2006, right after opening of Ashale, the House of Hope, the Lord gave me a vision. I saw a dream, and this dream it's a wide dream, and the dream was about building a city of hope, a place of refuge, which will be a campus that inhabits, that accepts every such individual who has been rejected, abandoned, denied by the world, who is living without hope, and that the city of hope will be a place of refuge for such, where they can experience the love of God through word and in action, and their lives can be transformed. And so we've been praying and been in vision. I would say we've been pregnant with this vision ever since 2006. So we kept praying while we been doing whatever smaller ways we can, and this children home that we've been running. So we've been praying with the children, kept praying. Back in 2009 is when the Lord reconfirmed this dream, and I very well remember a man of God speaking prophetically, and part of that prophecy was very specifically speaking about the vision of the City of Hope. And he described the whole of the vision as though he's holding a brochure in his hand. And one amazing statement that he made was that you've been praying and pregnant with this vision, not knowing when and how it will come true. But the Lord shows me that He is about to bring the land to you. He has raised someone, and the land is about to be released very soon. I come back from, this event happened on a trip in Brisbane. I come back, and very next month, here is when I receive a call from Mr. Vibhu Kapoor, and we actually met on the street, and that's where the association began. We never really had a open discussion on the land requirement, or any need was never expressed as such, but God had put it in his heart while we were praying. So I remember, it was kind of funny. I wouldn't have any answers that how the funds, how the money will be possible for such a big project as such land. And we would never could imagine that. And I was assuming that we may have, having several acres of land, it could be possible maybe 200, 300 kilometers away from city of Mumbai, because you can never imagine something like around the city. So I remember God would lead me to go to, specifically in Khalapur region. I would put petrol in my motorbike somehow, and we were, looking for land in that location, and came across this particular land parcel. I really liked it. I felt the presence of God while I was there. And then when made inquiry about this particular land, it belonged to none other than Reliance Company. They are like a business empire in India, richest man in India, or perhaps Asia now. The land belonged to their company. And when I approached concerned people, there was denial. They didn't want it to meet really. I remember approaching the director of this company, and he could see me in his CCTV camera and made statements of didn't want it to give time. But I persuaded, and then he just gave 2 minutes, 2 sentences. It's 157 acres, not selling in pieces, and it's 35 lakh per acre. Hearing that, it blew my mind. I was shut. I just thanked him and left.
So give us an idea of what 35 lakh per an acre would cost in US dollars.
35 lakhs would be $60,000
per acre.
$60,000 per acre. Hearing that amount, I felt it's impossible. It blew my mind, but the Lord was not allowing me to give up. I keep praying. And what happens is, very next week, Sir, Mr. Kapoor calls me up and expressed desire that if I could join with him and we could look for some property. And we went to different areas, we went to different locations, saw different land parcels, and it was not really interesting or appealing, and it couldn't work out. And then we ended up coming to Khalapur, and the Lord convinced his heart to, he felt interested, and that's where the dialogue began. When we had the first meeting with the director of Reliance Company on the discussion of the land, that's where Mr. Kapoor actually disclosed his heart that he was not going to buy any property for his company as such. He was wanting to donate 10 acres land to us for the City of Hope. And that was, I was so blessed to hear it and receive it. It started from that point, but eventually, while the company could buy the whole of 157 acres and also from surrounding landholders, so 200 plus acres of land. And today, even that, the initial plan to do a township around the City of Hope so that children are not isolated, so it could be a happening place. That idea is no longer just 200 acres. We're talking about a whole new city called Khalapur Smart City, which will be happening in about 9,000 acres, combining about 11 villages. So it's like, see that seed of one dream and vision given by the Lord. Today we're talking about like huge, something which is going to be like very one of its kind in India or perhaps Asia, which is going to be very amazing.
Yes, I want Mr. Kapoor to share about that smart city later on in the episode, because what we are witnessing is that God brought the two of you together and he cut out a 30-acre parcel for the City of Hope. That was the original focus. But then he used that seed of hope to become one of India's premier smart cities of 9,000-acre smart city project. And we're going to put links, if we can do so, in the show notes to just show our listeners the beauty of this vision for the smart city there. So, Mr. Kapoor, when we got started there, it was really just through the Clean Water Project. As you already alluded, you went in and you saw villages there that lacked basic necessities. And so we began. And yesterday, you really recapped where we had come over the last 5 years and how there was resistance in the beginning, and you had to keep encouraging Pastor to let the locals take responsibility, and that we needed to wait, and exercise a tremendous amount of patience. Will you just recap what you shared with our team yesterday about this 5-year progress and where we are, and now how there's been progress in one day that would have normally even taken weeks to happen? Can you recap that for us, please?
I remember we started with the enthusiasm that now we're going to do something for the children here, for the women here, and that we are here to give everybody the joy and the encouragement. And with that hope, we went, and Pastor was there. One Christmas, he had some gifts, and he handed out the gifts to the children and the people in the area. There was so much reluctance and resistance, and the local, people who have importance over there forbid even to receive the gifts. And that led to some kind of unhappiness in the mind, and the heart felt that, here we are to give and there is nobody to receive it. Going forward, things didn't improve. Pastor kept persisting, trying to do little by little, giving away gifts and giving away his thoughts and giving away his effort. But there was nobody to receive it. Till one time we started with the need of the area, which was the water, seeing the women and their physical health, because they carry water for a long distance. And they have orthopedic issues like the back and the hip and the spine, disalignment, and then early retirement. They're not able to live their full life. And that prompted us that we should start with the water. And that was very early. We tried, we got the permissions. But when we went to do the project, nobody wanted it. They needed it, but they didn't want it, because it was coming as a free, and they were reluctant in their ego to accept anything, and then they could not afford it. The mental block went on for several years. Till one time your team was there, and then they initiated the health program, and people appreciated it, because that was the need of the hour. And, they were not getting anything physical. So long as they got just advice, it was okay. And the advice was really good and helped many people. Going forward, the water program you all helped and initiated was also in our God's grace that we were able to augment it. We started with the filtration, great resistance, putting the pipeline, great resistance, the local bodies, the local people not wanting it, some people wanting and they couldn't say that they want it. The project was delayed after the first inception. Pastor kept on insisting, let's go, we'll do. We were just waiting for God's timing. Till one day, then moving to Khalapur and meeting the local head. And he said that now we are ready. So we were very happy. We needed the trench to put the pipeline to be done. Normally, it would have taken several days, maybe weeks. And he told me that we have decided to do this ourselves and you do the rest of the technical part of the project. I was happy. I didn't even know. The very next day, they took the machinery, they did the trench. Pastor was there. Within one day, the trench was laid. And surprise, surprise, within 2 days, the pipeline was laid.
Yeah, very true. Yeah.
And surprise, surprise, the pumping system, which was lying with us unused for almost 2 years, was there and already in process of commissioning. The water source was the river, and the water used was for the people to drink. The people who used to travel few miles to bring the water would have it at their doorstep. And nobody really thought that this would be so easy. The resistance, they went round and round in their mind till they accepted that this is not a gift, it is a partnership. That we put in our labor to put the trench, somebody put in his mind, somebody put in the money, and everybody is there to gain. Because it's God's wish that these people come together and make a difference. Out of the 5 villages, 1 village is already being commissioned. So much to say that when the water posts were to be made, each post has 6 water taps so that 6 people can get water. 2 posts were to be put into each village, so they have 12 taps. Nobody was willing to build it. Our endeavor was that unless they want it, they will not build it. So we put the material at the place. Eventually, one single man woke up one morning, took his wife and started digging.
Amen.
That was magic.
Thank you so much for taking the time to share that with us. Living the Dream podcast show opens with, do you want to make a difference in the world? And every one of us, I believe all of the listeners, really do want to change the world. And I believe that God has given the mission of the church the opportunity to reach the community in order to change the world. But in America, we have a drive-through microwave expect it now system. And what Sir is describing is just a simple water project that the villagers desperately needed. But it took years to accomplish and a boatload of patience along the way until they wanted it. And when we think of reaching foreign-born internationals, we can be very zealous about the good news and know we have something that people need. And we can go and try to build a friendship with them and give them what we have in our hand. and get frustrated very quickly if they don't respect and appreciate our gift the way that we do. And we can turn around and walk off in frustration and disgust. And in my 20 years of mission work in India, I've heard countless stories of people who have said the white missionaries came in. When they did not get what they wanted, they left. And I've also heard stories of how the villagers finally came and said, it was when you stayed that we knew that you were the real deal, that you really did care about us. And it's that kind of principle that I just wanted to get across on today's episode. That yesterday, Mr. Kapoor illustrated by holding up one hand, his right hand over his left hand as if to drop something into it. And that's a lot of times what we picture partnership looking like. We go and we give to the needy. We go and take the gospel to people who need to hear the good news, and we're dropping the gift into their lives. But in order to fulfill the Great Commission, we need partnership. The Great Commission is not just to spread the gospel, but that each person would become an ambassador. And so we need ambassadors representing every tribe, every tongue, every nation. And in order for Revelation 7, 9 through 12 to be fulfilled, we have to be willing to take that patient process of seeing people transform from being absent to the gospel to being transformed to become an ambassador for the gospel. And that's not necessarily something that will automatically happen in a drive-through or in a microwave or in an instant situation. So I really wanted our listeners to hear this story and appreciate this opportunity in front of us. We know how this story ends. Revelation 7, 9 through 12 shows us how this story is going to end. But the path can be very different based upon our expectations. And the path that I wanted us to realize through this story today over a simple water project in Kalapur outside of Mumbai, India, is that it's a path of partnership, and it's going to take a lot of patience.
And now, a story from the mission field.
I was in a hotel one time in Hyderabad, and they had boiled eggs on the buffet for breakfast. And I really don't care for boiled eggs. I just was in the mood for a fried egg. And I kept asking them for a fried egg, and they kept telling me no. And I was convinced that they were just unwilling to give me a fried egg because there were boiled eggs already on the buffet. And I kept trying to explain, I will pay for the fried egg. I just want a fried egg. I don't want a boiled egg. I just want a fried egg. And we went on and on for a good 20 minutes, talking to a variety of staff members and people that would come up into the restaurant and everything. And I never could get a fried egg. Our Indian pastor shows up, he sits down, and I just explained to him, we laugh about it, and he said, oh, you have to just ask for half boiled. And that made no sense to me, but he turned around and he asked them in English for half boiled, and they brought me a fried egg. So there are mysteries. It's not a language barrier. It's just you've got to figure out what they call the thing that you're looking for, and you will get it.
We want to give some local love to our friends at Globus Medical, located in Audubon, Pennsylvania. Globus leads in innovation and musculoskeletal solutions. They are focused on the design, development, and commercialization of products like the Excelsius GPS, one of the only spinal surgery robots on the market today. We recognize their founder and executive chairman, David Paul, not just because he is an American businessman born in India, but also for his love for God and generosity for missions. Check out their website at globusmedical.com.
Nothing boosts reaching internationals more than saying, I've been there. Global Hope India has taken nearly 1,000 people on short-term mission trips and seen both Americans and Indians radically transformed. Experience a life-changing adventure. If you're looking to see people far from God raised to life in Christ, then GHI is your opportunity. See our mission trips at globalhopeindia.org/go. There's definitely a trip for you.
Know your numbers. Maybe you've seen the show Shark Tank, and you've seen the business owners come in to pitch to the sharks and explain why they're the right person to execute the vision for their business. Well, we believe that you are the right person to execute the vision for your church, and you need to know your numbers.
Did you know that there are 2 times more Asian internationals than there are Hispanic internationals living in the USA today? Did you know that Indian nationals have increased 500% since 1990? Today, foreign-born internationals account for 13.6% of the U.S. population. That's nearly triple since 1970, when it was only 4.7%. So if more than 1 out of every 10 person living in the USA today is a foreign-born international, this is a reason and opportunity for the church today to know our numbers and to get comfortable reaching our international friends. The more you know the numbers of what God is doing here in the USA and bringing foreign-born internationals to live here, the more it should encourage you to have an identifiable and measurable strategy for reaching these international friends living in your community.
Pastor M., share with us what Mr. Kapoor said yesterday about the mayor, the one leader who was resistant in the beginning, and you showed me a picture. I want to put that picture in our show notes for our listeners of him down on his knees building one of those fixtures in one of the village. Can you just share that real quickly?
Today, as we are about to complete this drinking water project, it really brings a whole lot of joy to our hearts to see how it has evolved from a complete resistance that everyone in the village or in that Kolhapur region was not at all welcoming. And I remember when we first tried to do the gift distribution for the tribal children, we actually had almost a beating experience. One of our colleagues was beaten and we were stopped from doing that kind act of handing out free gifts for the tribal children, and we were stopped from doing that. And so was this clean drinking water project. We wanted to help them with this, but there was extreme resistance. But praise God, as we have tried our best to hold on to patience and keep persistingly trying for it as a collaborated effort, all of us together, I really see a tremendous power of partnership in here. It's not just one man's work. It's been a partnership. As a Raise of Hope, as a Revive, Mr. Kapoor, and as GHI, through its grants that we have received. And then comes the local participation, that is the local city council body and the people as they have got interested and got involved. We really see now things on the ground that are taking shape and it is happening. So talking about the ex-city mayor, I'm so happy that this Mr. Deepak, he is a local corporator and the ex-mayor of the city. He got convinced. Initially he was not at all interested. He would not even bother to listen to what we were trying to explain. He was not interested. But now he has taken up such a leadership and ownership that he is there. He is working with his own hands. That is making difference, because others can see it now, and the whole of the villages now of this particular area called Danwadi, they've all gotten interested, they've all gotten involved, and we just completed the laying of pipelines, which could take several days, more than a week or two to complete it. It was accomplished and done in one day. We see now we are about to open the water post at this particular village tribal hamlet. That's possible. There's the power of partnership. Praise God for it.
Thank you for sharing that. One of the takeaways I want our listeners to just appreciate is the value. We've heard it our whole lives. People don't care how much we know until they know how much we care. And what I respect about this story, I've witnessed this. We've been bringing teams in and out. And what Mr. Kapoor referenced earlier is that it was a medical clinic that really began to turn the atmosphere because we went in simply to build relationships with them. We, as believers, appreciate the necessity of water. And Jesus even described himself as being the living water. We understand the need and the opportunity to give something of incredible value to our friends. But we can get frustrated if they don't appreciate it and receive it like we want them to. What you hear is this story of just simply going back and continuing to love and continuing to demonstrate genuine care and meeting their felt needs. And over a 2 or 3 year process, they then came to a place of where they said, can we please have the pipelines? And I want you to understand, part of the story is we went in with thousands of dollars of RO plant to reverse osmosis, to provide clean drinking water. And they refused. Yesterday, we heard the story that the villagers didn't even come out and provide water or refreshments to the laborers bringing in this treatment plant. And they did not want to have anything to do with it because it was not yet their idea. It was not yet their request. Mr. Kapoor continued to ask Pastor M, be patient and wait. We will waste our time until they come to us and say, will you please provide the pipelines? And it did not happen in 3 days. It did not happen in 3 months. It did not happen in 1 year. They waited. Mr. Kapoor just earlier shared that they sat on a pump, a very valuable piece of equipment, for over 2 years, knowing that this was a solution these villages needed, but they waited until the villages wanted it. And they were committed to a long-term process. And in that time period, instead of just going in the comfort of their homes and not coming back for 2 years, they continued to just go out and serve the people and love the people and pray with the people and provide free medical care to the people and hygiene kits to the people. And relationships were built. And as the villagers saw that Pastor M, Mr. Kapoor were committed to unconditional love. Reject my pump that's worth thousands of dollars. I'm still going to love you. Totally disrespect that we have poured thousands into this reverse osmosis plant. I'm still going to love you. I'm not going away. I'm going to be here tomorrow. I'm going to bring another team. We're going to provide medical care for your children. And that's unconditional love. And now we were just out there with a team for 2 days, and the rapport, the joy, the enthusiasm of the villagers, they are so grateful and they're so open to the things of God. And none of this is forced upon them. It has simply been an offering to them, but now they're asking for it. They're asking not only for the water, but for the prayer and those things. And so very proud of you men, and very blessed that we get to be a partner in a project like this. Mr. Kapoor, any last thoughts you'd like to share? Takeaways of leadership? We talked about several yesterday. Anything on your mind of how you would encourage us in this partnership?
Just wait on him. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
And it will happen.
Yeah. That sounds so simple, but it is incredibly profound. And I do hope our listeners will hear those words, because to be effective, we're going to have to do it in God's timing and in His way. In earth perspective, that may take a lot of waiting room experience, but that's a prescription to get into the hearts of people. Mr. Kapoor, I promised earlier in the episode just to give a very brief description of the Kalapur Smart City. What's going to be there 10 years, 20 years from now? Just give us a vision of the dream that's transpiring there.
In the God City, everybody is welcome to receive His grace and blessings. And that's the vision, and that's the way we describe our city, a city of hope. Going forward, we are going to find the millennials come in. They're just 20 today. In next 10 years, they are going to transform this world. Because that will be the time when they are actually put into positions of power and decision making. The city can never live with compulsions, with things which were in the past. They're living a new life. One box on the cell, and they're connected to the world. They have transcended all boundaries. They've transcended every barrier they had on knowledge, information. So with that aspect been taken care of, where knowledge was deprived, women were not allowed to read, study, the black, the white, the differences were tremendous. We've already gone into the God's way. For Him, everybody is alike. The sun shines on each one the same time, the same way, no difference. So that's the vision with which the plan for the city was built. It's not a time when people will go travel hundreds of miles to go to their job because he is poor, and the rich man will come walking to his place of work. The city encompasses that there is to be a place where he can excel in his capabilities. So there is provision for everybody to excel in their gifts that he has received when he was born. And the children who are deprived are also looked after. The people who are deprived, people who can't afford, have meaningful life as well. And of course, all the joys of life, the nature, the forest, the lakes, the rivers, and all the nature's blessings to be always with the people who live here. And then this become a place where people come to learn and how to make a difference in their communities. As they take the ideas which we will share, we will give them all the information, we will provide them all the help so they can build their own cities as comfort as God has provided for us by giving us the food, the water, the air. And they should take back all the joy and give back all the joy. And that's all that we envisage. And that's where we look forward to partnership, to receiving your encouragement, your help, your skills, and blessings.
Thank you, sir. I have more questions, but we're out of time. So I hope that means that we'll have another opportunity to record more of our conversation in the future. You've taught me so much, even in the brief moments that I've been able to be around you, and I just really appreciate that. I appreciate Pastor M as well. Thank you both for being on the show today. And I really appreciate all of our listeners, and I hope that you will take away the spiritual significance of what's been shared, and that you will be committed to building a friendship, a relationship, long term, with a lot of boatload of patience as you share the good news of Christ with foreign-born friends living in the U.S. And a really good book that has helped Global Hope India years ago was just the book When Helping Hurts. And you've heard some of those principles even in today's episode about how we can actually hurt if we go in with our own expectations and mindset and try to control the people and push the timing and give instead of really asking for a partnership. And so I hope that if you need any further development of this thought, that you'll pull that book out and take a read of it. It's a really, really helpful book in laying a foundation about partnership. And I really hope that you'll catch a vision to see partnership as it relates to the Great Commission and the fulfillment of the Great Commission. God bless you. Thank you for listening today. Please be sure to review and share. We'd love to hear from you. God bless.
Thank you. God bless.
We want to hear from you. I'm serious. We have a dedicated phone line set up to record your 3-minute story at 817-66-DREAM. What questions do you have about reaching internationals? We want to know. Call 817-66-DREAM and leave your message. If we pick your message, we'll send you a free Living the Dream t-shirt. Check it out on our website. Again, that's 817-66-DREAM, 817-66-DREAM. Thank you for listening to the Living the Dream podcast, empowering and equipping church staff with an identifiable and measurable strategy for reaching internationals and changing the world. You can help us live the dream by liking, commenting, subscribing to this podcast wherever you listen to your podcasts. And you can find more resources to empower and equip your church staff at globalhopeindia.org/resources. That's globalhopeindia.org/resources.